everyone. We are in Boulder, Colorado. We are meeting up with the Intrepid Camp Gear team. We're going to do an install today on one of their Land Cruisers. Land Cruiser has a Geo Solo rooftop tent. We're going to install it on a Sherpa roof rack. It's a really low profile roof rack. It's not a lot of space. It's a perfect application for our new rooftop tent mounts. So check it out. Alrighty, so now we're inside the shop here in Intrepid. We're going to do a Geo Solo. This is the Intrepid's kind of narrow model, one-man tent. We're going to test out these new rooftop tent mounts. These are the low-profile roof rack RTT mounts. Hopefully they're going to slide right into the mounting rails, and then we'll get them tightened up and ready for the install. Intrepid has their own unique mounting rails, different than any other tent brand. Fortunately, they shared the information ahead of time, and we were able to create a custom slider assembly for our mounts to adapt and slide right into their tent mounting rails. This iteration, we're going to do things a little bit different. Previously in the Sherpa install, we had the front mounts move back and forth when opening and closing the mounts. On this iteration, we're actually going to have the front mounts fixed in place relative to the tent and have the rear mounts being the ones to move back and forth. Now to do this, we needed to figure out which crossbar we were going to be attaching to, and we actually had to do some rework here. We realized that we should clamp to a crossbar that was supported by the gutter rails, so we had to make some adjustments after the tent was up there, and it actually was a lot harder with the tent already installed. So lesson learned here is get your measurements right the first time before installing the tent. It'll be much easier and more of an enjoyable experience. Now here's the main event, standing at the rear bumper, using the electric drill, driving in those mounts. And as you can see, the front mounts are fixed, different than previous iterations, and the rear mounts are the ones moving. So all the action's going on in the back, right where you can see, and with the front mounts fixed, then our tent position front to back is set every time. So we can just zoom back and forth between the mounts, and this system seems to be working pretty well. It even passes the shakedown test. All right, just got the mounts installed. Now we're gonna do a quick test drive. And here we are ready for a test drive. Now you can see this is a very slick install. The tent is still really close to the roof rack, yet easy to get to, easy to remove and install, and doesn't raise the tent up more than an inch. For the tent removal, it's real easy to use that electric drill, drive those rear mounts backwards, shimmy that tent forward to unhook the front mounts, and lift the tent straight up and off the vehicle. Alrighty, I'm Trevor. I'm back with Sloan. We are here in Boulder, and we just did an install on Sloan's, it's an FJ60, right?
Yeah.
With the diesel swap?
Yep.
Yeah. This thing's a pretty sweet rig. They have a Sherpa rack on this. This is actually a new rack coming out from Sherpa. Sloan was able to get one of the first sets. And we just did an install with our new low-profile roof rack rooftop tent mounts. And we installed it on this Geo Solo by Intrepid. It's a one-man tent. And we wanted to get some feedback from Sloan himself, just kind of general thoughts. You know, what's your comments on feedback? Like I met you at the show, we talked about, hey, we got this new thing coming out. You know, kind of showed you something. It looked a little janky, but now we actually did an install. So, you know, what do you think about this thing?
Yeah, at first I had seen Trevor walking around the show with this big rod in his hand, which I thought was pretty funny. So I was kind of unsure of how I was going to pan out for him until they came here and we were able to use it. We install on a lot of these low-profile racks. Even on this one in the past, installing the tent, it takes a fair amount of time to do it. If you have to remove the fairing, or if you have maybe proper tent risers on there, it might be a little bit easier, but for the most part, it can be a bit difficult. And that's just the caveat to having a nice low-profile rack that looks clean on cars. So after installing this, it was actually incredibly smooth. It is interesting having a rod running from front to rear, but overall, I'd say if you're going to be installing a tent on one of these racks, it could take a fair amount of time. And with this, we're able to theoretically do it in about 5 minutes if you do your measurements properly. What's nice is that Everything you can use a power tool, so taking it on, taking it off can be super quick. You have easy access here from the backside, which is pretty awesome, and then it mounts on here just from the clamp. So it's a really simple system. I think me and Trevor talked about there's some minor changes that they're going to be making on it for finalizing it, but I'd say for the most part, this is a pretty awesome system and super solid. If you don't mind having the slight rise to it, which a lot of people don't, I'd say this is a really great system for these low profile racks.
Yeah, and we're gonna space up your tent 1 inch, so just be aware of that. You know, that could be a deal breaker for some folks. We've talked to quite a few other people that, you know, the 1 inch isn't such a big deal. It actually will help with awning mounts and other accessories if you're mounting here in this gap. But you know, the main reason we have that additional gap or that space is to prevent these center crossbars from rattling on the tent frame rail. So if you haven't done it if you haven't tested it out without any sort of riser, you'll learn that there's a lot of noise from these center crossbars rattling on the tent because they're not clamped or constrained. So by spacing the tent up just a little bit, you know, 1 inch or so, will prevent that rattling, and it'll be a much quieter and smoother ride. Now, Sloan, you said that you had done that yourself. You didn't rise up or put out any spacer. How was it?
Yeah, it gets annoying pretty quickly. And a lot of people don't realize this, but with these low profile racks, you pretty much have to have a slight riser on it anyway to mount the tent properly. So whether it's a 1/2 inch or an inch, you're going to be utilizing one of them. I agree. We usually recommend that people mount their awnings and accessories to the rack because it's a much more stable platform. So with this just gives you a lot of room to have awning mounts that are attached to the rack, which you don't really get for a lot of risers out there. So 1 inch is pretty good to have accessories.
All right, Sloan, thank you for your time. We really appreciate you being able to meet up with us and be able to do an install. Get this thing out on the trails, hit some rough roads, and hopefully we'll get some good feedback and testing from this. What year is this Land Cruiser? You said 94?
86. The engine's from a 94 though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. So this unicorn Land Cruiser, not a lot of them here in Colorado like this.
Yeah, it's old but gold.
Old but gold. All right. We'll see you next time.